Please come to order. There are 6 requests for public comment. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good afternoon, trustees. My name is Robert Pleiss. I'm an emeritus faculty member, an alum, a contributor to the campaign for SDSU, but I'm here as a neighbor and a member of the board of College View Estates Association. I'm speaking to you about the new student housing project at San Diego State University. I hope you'll read our more extensive comments that we asked to have distributed to you, because in 3 minutes, all I can really do is touch on the highlights. I'll skip over most of the background. Suffice to say that College View Estates is a neighborhood on the west side of the San Diego University campus, and we share with the university a city-owned street, a street owned by the city of San Diego. We share that as neighbors, and the city of San Diego classifies this street, Remington Road, as a 2-lane connector road, and that classification means it's not compatible with fronting uses. Nevertheless, in that SDSU does not need permits from the city, 30 years ago, SDSU built a dorm fronting on Remington Road. And as we have explained to you in our written comments, this design decision makes the main access into our neighborhood difficult and hazardous. We did not wish to see that design mistake replicated in this new project. However enthusiastic we were and still are about seeing more housing constructed on the SDSU campus. It's something we've been advocating for a long time. So we brought our concerns to the scoping meeting. We commented on the NOP, and despite all of that, when the EIR came out, we saw that the same problematic design decision was to be replicated in the new campus buildings. Now, if you want to know what happens when you build a dormitory on Remington Road, the obvious thing to do is look at the dormitory that's been there for 30 years. Believe it or not, SDSU based its entire traffic study on a dormitory at Chapman University in Orange, because that was easier. When we saw that, we in our neighborhood hired a licensed and very experienced traffic engineer to advise us, and we undertook original data collection and analysis. We gave descriptive summaries of our data, and we created a probability model that would allow us to predict what would happen when the additional housing capacity was doubled or more so on Remington Road. We made all of that available to the university in comments on the draft EIR. So our comments provided substantial evidence that there is indeed a problem, and it's a problem that the CEQA guidelines and the California State University traffic manual require to be addressed in an EIR, and to address it with evidence-based evaluation. We also found that a proposed 6-car turnout in front of the building would not be sufficient to remedy the problem. Despite our comments, SDSU did not respond in the FEIR. They repeated a short list of some mitigation measures which have been tried before. They touted the 6-car turnout as a panacea. They did not provide any evidence-based response. To date, the only evidence-based study that's been done of the situation is the one that we put into the administrative record. That is not sufficient, and that's a big hole in the administrative record that any competent attorney could drive right through. We do not want to see that happen. We want to see this housing built in a timely fashion. But
Mr.
we asked the board
your time has concluded. Would you please summarize your final thoughts?
We asked the board, we put our specific recommendations into the written materials. We asked the board to not let this happen, to require SDSU to close this hole in the administrative record before you certify the EIR. Thank you very much.
Members of the Board of Trustees, good afternoon. My name is Jose Reynoso. I live in the college area of San Diego near San Diego State. I am here to lend my support for the proposal before you to build a new dormitory on the campus of SDSU. For a number of years until recently, I was chair of the College Area Community Planning Board / president of the College Area Community Council, and I continue to serve as president of the Alvarado Estates Community Association Board just a few blocks from campus. When I first went to college, all freshmen were required to live on campus, in the dorms with no exceptions. Even if incoming freshmen were the children of university professors that lived in what was familiarly known as the faculty ghetto on campus, they were required to live in the dorms for a very important reason. My alma mater's goal was academic excellence and academic success for all students. The friendships and bonds that were formed in the dorms were absolutely crucial to the development of the support mechanisms necessary for students to succeed academically and to develop the ties that continue to engage them in support of the university. Even after freshman year, practically all students chose to live on campus, not only because of the support, but also because of the sense of belonging that developed. I saw and benefited from these same dynamics in graduate school. Now, I know that on-campus living requirements at SDSU are not as strict, but that's simply because of inadequate infrastructure, making any efforts to improve the situation vital. San Diego State has made tremendous strides in raising the its academic reputation, and a big component of their success to date is the tremendous demand by students to live on or adjacent to campus so that they can focus on why they are in college to begin with, to achieve academic success. Realistically, there is simply not enough room on the campus to accommodate all students that wish to make their academic careers their focus. Many of us in the community are working very hard to change that by pushing and working with the city and private developers to create the environment that can provide these same benefits that I just outlined that are available on campus, also available immediately adjacent to it. Our goal is to create a dynamic innovation ecosystem in the community that uses SDSU as its base. You should be aware that there is tremendous support not only for this project, but in general throughout the surrounding community for San Diego State. Obviously, there are always opposing positions, and some are very vocal, but even from that opposition, there are positives because this project, I believe, has over time evolved into a better one. Thank you.
Good afternoon, trustee committee members. Thank you for allowing me to address you today. I am Laura Gates, Chief of Policy for the San Diego City Council Member Georgette Gomez. Member Gomez asked me to be here today and address you as San Diego State University and its proposed dorm project lie within the boundaries of our council district. I'd like to start by thanking San Diego State for their willingness to work with us and the community to ensure that any major impacts to the surrounding community were mitigated. Councilmember Gomez is in support of this project as revised, moving forward with the construction of Phase 1. Phases 2 and 3 were slated to go into the local Aztec Canyon, which is revered by the council member and the community alike, and therefore thank SDSU for revising their project and protecting the canyon. The city and the community are eager to support the goal of providing more on-campus housing for San Diego State, and Councilmember Gomez looks forward to working with San Diego State University to make that a reality. Councilmember Gomez has highlighted the importance of housing in San Diego, as well as the benefits of having SDSU in our city. But I am here to also express the council member's intent to ensure that, like SDSU, this project is a benefit to the surrounding community. I'd like to make the trustees aware that Remington Road is the main road in and out of College View Estates, the community next to Chappie Hall, and the new dorm project. The community remains concerned about the added traffic along this main road, and we would like simply to impress upon SDSU the importance of working to mitigate any impacts to traffic. Doing so would be much appreciated by the council member and the community. We believe this project will be a great community asset and look forward to the future projects that uplift the quality of life and education to our residents throughout the entire college area community. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter.
My name is Terry Shirley. I'm a college area resident, and I head one of the community groups on the eastern side of the university. I would like to lend our support. Our community would like to lend our support to the project, particularly phase 1, although we were in favor of phase 2 as well. But we definitely hope that you vote for this and that you lend its support to this project. I'm going to read a brief letter that we wrote to President Rausch in support of the project. As a longtime neighbor of San Diego State University, I am pleased to write this letter in support of the new student housing project located next to Chapultepec Hall, Chappie Hall. The university continues to have a need for additional on-campus housing to better accommodate the needs of the evolving student population. We appreciate the university's efforts to build housing that is inclusive of amenities and spaces that are designed to encourage the academic success of the many students on campus. I also greatly appreciate that the proposed project will reduce traffic in the area and hopefully reduce students' reliance on cars to get to and from campus. As San Diego State University continues its ascension to one of the top universities in California and the nation, I appreciate your time, attention, and resources to the needs of your student population, while also considering the impacts on the surrounding community, which has been extensive. Please continue to engage the community as you expand and beautify not just the housing on campus, but the many shops and amenities that both the students and residents have come to count on. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Cornthwaite, and I'm also here to speak in support of SDSU's new Student Residence Hall project. For the last 20 years, I've been a resident of the College View Estates, the neighborhood adjacent to the university's project. I've also been active in the community, having served a full term on the local community planning board and had a key role in raising significant funds for the benefit of the local College Rolando branch of the San Diego Public Library. As the retired executive director of the Associated Students at SDSU, a position I served in for more than 30 years, I have been uniquely positioned to gain insights and knowledge about student life at SDSU and the impacts of student housing and the campus experience on student success. The university has consistently and fully engaged community representatives with each and every new construction project, including this proposed project. Many new and innovative measures have been developed and implemented by the campus over the last several years to address community environmental concerns, including successful traffic management strategies at the beginning of each academic semester, traffic, parking, and security measures for large special events, student peer advising programs intended to educate students living in off-campus housing about the relationship between behavior and the quality of life in the neighborhoods near the campus. The university's residence life programs are intentionally designed to promote student success. Students and the surrounding community benefit from projects such as this in at least the following ways. Increased numbers of university student housing options provide students with the option of experiencing campus life in residential communities with peers who share common interests and/or academic goals. Increased spaces for on-campus residential options reduces the need for students to seek housing in off-campus rental units referred to as mini dorms, and the problems they create for the local neighborhoods. Structured on-campus residential communities contribute to learning that enhances student success and graduation rates. Students are more effectively likely to connect to the campus, often contributing to the lifelong pride and regard for their university experience. Finally, many of my nearby residents and I have come to appreciate and value the stimulating and unique opportunities and accessible services that are afforded to those who have the good fortune to live adjacent to a high-quality state university. Thank you.
Hello, Presidents, Trustees, and Chancellor White. Hector Fernandez with SETC. I'm the business manager representing the skilled trades workers throughout the CSU system. I feel kind of left out. I'm a 12-year employee of San Diego State, and I get to follow all of them. So I guess I should say a little comment on the project, seeing the campus grow over the 12 years that I've been employed there. It's been a pleasure to see that campus grow and get to the magnitude that it has. The recognition, I fully support, watching that campus grow and seeing the students in that environment prosper through it. I guess for our own selfish needs through SETC, I would encourage, through these projects, I would hope, the main focus would to maintain the internal employees maintaining these residences. Luckily, we have plenty of qualified staff that maintain the current residents on the campus and have been empowered to take on a few of the newer projects. So I hope with this one in turn also we get that opportunity to keep that in-house. The other part why I'm here is the 5-year capital outlay program. Reviewing some of these numbers, we've talked about these numbers for a long time, and I think it's kind of the redheaded stepchild in the room all the time when it comes to facilities. We talk about being, almost about $2.6 billion in deferred maintenance now in the system. The numbers continue to grow. I see through the outlay program, we're estimating anywhere between about a $15 to $30 million increase, which will be turned into bond money to go ahead and increase from, I think it was 125 to 325 million, which estimates it at about lowering it to about a $2 billion deferred maintenance. While all of this is great, reviewing some of these projects, when it comes to us, we have concern that a lot of this, is laid out in capital projects and it's turning into deferred maintenance projects, which really is the intent of SETC being on these campuses. It's skilled journey level people to maintain these campuses, take care of them. And I would hope that, we would consider this when we allocate these funds, that to stretch this, money further, we do encompass the skilled trades and we do take in our input on what's going on in these campuses. A lot of these projects, I think, can stretch this dollar even further, get that money down further on the deferred maintenance to where we need to be, and help supply jobs to more skilled trades workers. We're in the process of looking at bringing in more workers under apprenticeships, which I think is a good opportunity to increase staffing levels through this money, since it is temporary money a lot of the times. These apprenticeship programs offer the opportunity to train individuals, which goes along with what we're here for. We're here to educate individuals, but I think also not everyone's meant for a 4-year university. And if we have an opportunity to allocate some funding sources to go ahead and provide opportunities for other individuals, I think it's our due diligence to explore those options. In closing, I would just again ask you guys to consider, really look at collaboratively working with the internal resources right now when it comes to a lot of these projects. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes the speaking session, and I would like to thank all the speakers for their comments. And now I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. So it's now time for the committee to consider today's consent agenda. Would any committee member wish to remove any of the items for separate discussion? Seeing none, I would request that a motion be made to approve the items listed on the consent agenda. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor who are committee members indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Therefore, the items listed on the consent agenda are approved. Now we need to move to the discussion agenda, which has 3 items. First item listed as number 2 is an action item, requesting approval of the master plan revision with enrollment ceiling increases for California State University, San Bernardino. The item will be presented today by Steve Roya, Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer, Tomas Morales, President of California State University, San Bernardino, and Vi San Juan, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Capital Planning, Design, and Construction. Steve, would you please begin?
Thank you, Chair Nyland. This item requests certification of the final environmental impact report and approval of Cal State San Bernardino's Campus Master Plan 2017. This is the first major master plan revision since 2004 for the San Bernardino campus. The plan, which President Morales and Vice San Juan will describe to you, is consistent with Cal State San Bernardino's mission to serve the students and communities of San Bernardino, the Inland Empire region, and the state of California. I will now turn the presentation over to President Morales.
Thank you, Steve. Chair Nyland and members of the Board of Trustees, I'm very pleased to present the 2017 San Bernardino Campus Master Plan. 18 months in the making, the plan represents a consensus plan crafted with extensive input from both the campus and external communities through a series of open forums and steering committee meetings. As a result, this master plan showcases our commitment to an ecologically sustainable, resource-resilient, and secure campus with a long future ahead of it. With student success as the primary driver of our efforts, the plan calls for the strategic infill our campus with enhanced experiences for academic pursuits and student engagement, creating purposeful outdoor courtyards and main streets that are appropriate for our climate, while also maintaining the beautiful vistas the San Bernardino campus is known for. We have a video to share which captures the campus' future vision proposed in this well thought out and visionary master plan. If we could please start the video.
The 2016 Cal State San Bernardino Master Plan is an aspirational plan, one that seeks to transform the campus from a suburban commuter campus with large open spaces and long walking distances into a more compact, walkable campus with human-scale open spaces that are protected from both the sun and the wind. The plan calls for the strategic infill of academic, shown in red, student housing, yellow, student support functions, shown in purple and lavender, and public-private partnership spaces shown in light blue. The plan is linked together by 2 primary pedestrian pathways, Coyote Walk to the north, which is the central spine of the academic core, and Sycamore Walk to the south, linking the housing villages. The plan envisions improvements to the main campus entry, including enhanced landscape, signage, parking access, and transit drop-off. Looking east along Sycamore Walk, you can see the housing on the right-hand side of the screen and University Hall on the east, which is planned to be repurposed for administrative functions at this entry to the campus. As the campus continues to grow, parking structures will be required to meet this future increase in parking demand. Adjacent to each parking structure will be an arrival plaza with wayfinding kiosks to orient visitors as well as students and faculty. Moving to the north of the campus and the academic core, we can clearly see that Coyote Walk will indeed serve as the central spine to this intensified academic core. In the foreground, we can see the Phase 1 dining commons and student housing. The plan calls for improvements to Coyote Walk, including additional landscaping, signage, outdoor shade structures, Wi-Fi, and other amenities. Along with 3 important projects, including the expansion of the Student Union, the Fowl Library, and the new College of Extended Learning, currently in design, which will not only house the functions of the CEL programs, but also ground floor lecture hall space that can be shared by the entire campus. Moving further west along Coyote Walk, we see the second housing village and its own dining commons. Also shown are the expansion to the Fullerton Art Museum and a future academic quadrangle. At the terminus of Coyote Walk to the west is an area designated for public-private partnerships to foster relationships with local businesses and offer the opportunities for potential revenue to the campus. At full build-out, the Cal State San Bernardino Master Plan will create a 24/7 living, working, and learning environment for the Inland Empire.
In addition to this plan for San Bernardino, our campus is currently finalizing a separate 2017 master plan for our Palm Desert campus, which is currently completing its environmental impact review. We hope to present this to you at the January board meeting. With that as an introduction, I would like to express my deep appreciation to Vi and the CPDC team, who have been incredibly supportive of our efforts. I will now turn the presentation over to Vi.
Thank you, President Morales. This slide is the existing master plan for San Bernardino. The 441-acre campus is bordered by residential neighborhoods to the south and the San Bernardino Mountains to the north. The proposed master plan, as presented in the video, will accommodate 25,000 FTE at full build-out. This is a 5,000 full-time equivalent student increase above their current 20,000 FTE ceiling. The academic and administrative facilities include new classrooms and science labs, along with the renovation and expansion of existing facilities such as the John M. Fowle Library. The addition of over 3,300 student housing beds will allow for the campus to transition from a commuter campus to a residential urban environment. The Student Union Addition and Recreation Center Addition will also support the increase in the number of students living on campus by providing activity space for the student community. A final environmental impact report has been prepared to analyze the potential significant environmental impacts of the proposed Campus Master Plan 2017 in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and state CEQA guidelines. The final environmental impact report is a program environmental impact report under CEQA guidelines and with near-term projects like the Student Union Addition, which is identified and considered in the analysis. The FEIR has also determined there are a number of impacts that remain significant and unavoidable, which the trustees must consider prior to certifying the EIR. These include traffic impacts, short-term noise impacts and air quality impacts due to construction activities, cumulative air quality impacts to campus and regional growth, cumulative lighting impacts due to athletic field lighting and projected development in surrounding areas. These are significant and avoidable impacts projected based on the campus growth to 25,000 FTE. The CSU has complied with its obligation to determine its proportionate cost of the traffic improvements and negotiate with the controlling agency, which is the City of San Bernardino, for traffic impacts in this case. The EIR traffic consultant identified improvements needed and calculated CSU's proportionate share at 71% based on the 14 intersections studied, shown on this slide. The traffic consultant also identified impacts on the University Parkway off-ramp at Interstate 215, which is under the jurisdiction of Caltrans. This improvement is funded under Measure I. The total cost of these improvements is estimated to be over $880,000, with a campus fair share of $627,300 as the estimate. The campus began negotiations with the city in June 2017 and concluded negotiations, and the City Council voted in support of the campus fair share amount and the Memorandum of Understanding at its September 6, 2017 meeting. The proposed board resolution includes approval of the fair share amount and identifies that the CSU may consider the use of capital and operating budgets from the state, self-support entities, private developers, the CSU, or any other entities to pay the CSU's fair share amount. Staff recommends approval of the master plan. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vi, Tomas, and Steve for your presentation. The item titled Master Plan Revision with Enrollment Ceiling Increase for California State University San Bernardino is an action item before the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds. Only committee members may vote at this time. May I have a motion to approve?
Move it.
There is a motion. Is there a second? There'll be a chance for discussion in just one moment, please. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion, Lieutenant Governor?
Great, thanks. Just a brief, through the chair, just a brief question. It was inspired a bit by the private conversation the Chancellor and I were having before the meeting, and then prompted by the video and the reference to more parking structures to accommodate the need in the future. And it begs the question, in a master plan, in an environment where we're thinking by definition in the long term, are we considering, with the kind of acuity and consideration perhaps is necessary, the future as it relates to mobility, as it relates to autonomy, as it relates to the choice particularly of young folks to choose not to own individual vehicles, to look for a different type of mobility experience as it relates to sharing vehicles, to look at design considerations as it relates not just to large-scale parking structures to accommodate an industrial framework, but also on-street parking and the relationship as it relates to space and the built environment as it relates to the master plan. All of these things, I imagine, are considered, then again, I don't necessarily know, are considered with the kind of nuance and perhaps specificity that the future that is immediately upon us requires. So it's an open-ended question. It's also, by definition, a point of some concern. That's my question.
Chair Nylon, I'll take a little bit of a response and certainly invite the President to add on to comments, as I'll certainly not be the closest to the campus. But the campus has looked at transportation demand management over the last number of years, and in fact had partnered with the community on the installation and expansion of a transit center to increase the number of buses being able to serve the campus, bringing in those that don't own cars, and also to reduce the number of parking spaces on campus. A number of the proposed development projects are on existing parking lots, so the thought was to make sure there is adequate space in the new plan should the parking rates remain about the same or potentially increase with the ceiling increase to 25,000. But they've also been very forward thinking, and I believe they have the highest number of electronic vehicle chargers in the system. We're currently updating our report for the trustees on sustainability, and I believe they have over 30 charging stations. So I would say they're forward thinking. The master plan reflects their proposed footprints that take structures, that will need structures, but that's a little bit I can share on the insight to the plan.
All right, and I appreciate that. I guess I would encourage us to start really thinking through these things. Look, if I was going to design a city, I would not design all those on-street parking spaces. I'd radically rethink the way I was designing a city. I mean, I'd love to be mayor in the future as opposed to have been mayor in the past. And you're all mayors of these developments of sorts. And the opportunity to design a future which is quickly taking shape with autonomy, I mean, it's upon us. It's not 20 or 30 years from now. It just seems, I hope we get out of a little bit of the routine, despite, and I appreciate it, I'm grateful, I saw the solar panels, at least they appeared to be solar panels as it relates to the schematics there and the recognition, obviously, of alternative fuel vehicles. But I think even more broadly, with some different level of intentionality, I think we have a real opportunity because we're designing things for the next 100 years. And the next 10 years are going to look like the last 10, let alone the next 100. And so anyway, I'm encouraged that we're at least leaning in. And it begs then the final question. You mentioned sustainability. We just had a wonderful presentation last week at the UC Regions. As you may know, we're going to try to get to net neutrality as a system, which is audacious. And that moves us past the LEED certification questions because LEED is nice, but it's not good enough. With that in mind, were there discussions as it relates to the master plan about net neutrality as it relates to, and forgive me, net neutrality release, generation issues and carbon emissions relates to actually producing enough energy on site that you can sell back to the grid as opposed to even needing to consume any energy? Are we LEED Platinum as it relates to this project, or LEED Standard at all? What are the parameters as it relates to the scoping of this master plan?
I wouldn't say that the, excuse me, the master plan specifically is LEED Platinum. Some of the recent buildings the campus is pursuing, I believe, are LEED Gold. I'd have to check that with the student union and the housing dining that are soon to be, one's under construction dining, and then student unions in design. But the LEED Platinum, I agree, is very nice if you can afford it. It isn't always easy to afford. So we do have some projects in the system that are striving for platinum. And then the number of solar panel installations, we have a solar procurement contract currently under award. So there will be the opportunity for campuses to increase their solar. And I can't recall the greenhouse gases projected for this specific plan. It is something we do have to look at now for CEQA. And last year we added to our 5-year plan the calculations of greenhouse gases to show how we compare to the trustees' goal. But I can't remember anything specifically, President Tomas, on greenhouse gases and climate net neutrality.
Well, we're constantly looking at ways to achieve that neutral goal. Actually, our student union building is LEED Gold, meets the LEED Gold standard. But I do want to share with you that we are working very closely with the city of San Bernardino to create bike lanes to increase our SBX usage. We actually provide work with the city to supplement every student, faculty, and staff member who uses the SBX uses it free of charge, underwritten by the university, and our student government, our ASI, is actively involved in that project as well.
That's good. And I don't mean to belabor this. I appreciate all of that. And by the way, congratulations, and no more deserving community for this kind of investment. Everything about it is spectacular. I just hope as we subsequently have these conversations, it's not specific to you, but more broadly, that we really look at some stretch goals. As you know, the state is audaciously establishing goals that, are nice to sign. We're signing up. Basically, we're making a lot of commitments. The hard work is yet to be done. And you guys are in the how business. You're part of that. And the only way for us to come close to achieving these audacious goals as it relates to our low carbon green growth future is a requirement that we step up our game and that the things we've been doing are nice, but the next iteration requires a different level of thinking. And look, you're the best and the brightest. We source the minds within this system and the UC system for guidance and for policy counsel. There's no reason we shouldn't be setting the tone and tenor for the rest of the country and achieving things that never were imagined even a few years ago. So that's all I'm encouraging is some renewed energy on our renewable strategies.
Thank you. We have a few other comments. I think Trustee Simon, did you have a question?
Just a quick question and a comment. And I know that we're just reviewing this master plan, and I, like Lieutenant Governor, I had questions, or maybe there are comments, because again, it's the beginning of a process and we haven't even voted yet to move forward. But many institutions throughout the state of California are looking at modular parking structures, which provide an opportunity for dynamic design. And, we're not thinking necessarily, 50 years out, but absolutely these structures last 70, 90 to 90 years. And with modular parking structures, there's convertible possibilities. I can imagine, but we have to imagine a community where over 50% of our student populations don't drive and shouldn't drive. And even in some of these more suburban communities, understanding that public transportation is essential, and that unfortunately the CSU doesn't necessarily get the funding that it needs to secure and link with local public transportation facilities. We would, I think, as we move forward as a body and as a university community, we lean more heavily on the Department of Transportation, both nationally and locally, to figure out byways and lifelines for students who actually want to have alternatives. Last thing I'll say, what is exciting about the master plan and also the other projects that are going to be put before this board and this committee today is the increase in housing for students. Low and middle income students are struggling on our campuses now to find housing all over the state. And again, as a parent with a child who's a senior in college who wasn't able to get placement in a dorm, I hope I also speak for the frustrated parents who are paying full apartment rents around these campuses in California, and the egregious expense that it puts on families and communities. And so again, while that was a mouthful, it's really exciting to see this kind of planning move forward in front of this board and the amazing work of the staff at this college, at the university. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Simon. Trustee Kearney?
Thank you. I would just like to congratulate the campus on a really forward-thinking and visionary master plan revision. I was particularly impressed by what's being done with Coyote Walk, because if you've been on this campus now, I mean, I live in the Inland Empire, it's hot and it's windy. We get the Santa Ana winds and they just blast hot air. And the way the planners have redesigned Coyote Walk, it's just really brilliant. I mean, it's protective from the wind, and there are many outdoor shaded areas which don't exist now. So I think this will really be a great plan for the campus to work on implementing over the next 3 years. And I just wanted to mention this plan and the Palm Desert campus revision, they have already received awards from a professional planning association, which if I knew this was going to come up, I would have gotten the name. But they've already received awards for the sustainability. And my understanding from that presentation was that it was beyond LEED. It was beyond the LEED standards. So I don't have the details, but they were paying attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, trustees.
Thank you, Trustee Kearney. There is a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Trustee Hugo.
I wanted you to expand a little bit more on the Palm Desert campus and your vision for that.
We're working very closely with the city of Palm Desert, using the same process, having several town hall meetings, inviting not only the municipality of the city of Palm Desert, but all of the municipalities that our students come from, as far east as Indio, as well as other communities that have made a very significant investment in the Palm Desert campus. And so we're involved right now in completing the environmental review. We hope to have a signed MOU with the city of Palm Desert and bring the plan, as I described earlier, to the board in January.
Thank you, Trustee Morales. Vice Chancellor Aurelia.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the Lieutenant Governor, Trustee Simon, and others for comments about sustainability. I can tell you, and many of the trustees have seen these examples, that there's some very, very exciting things going on the campuses, not just in terms of employing strategies to reduce their carbon footprint, but engaging students in projects that are really cutting edge on renewable energy, on transportation, and these other things. So as Vi mentioned, there's going to be a presentation in the board soon on kind of a summary of a lot of these efforts. The concept that our presidents have really embraced and their student bodies is the campus as a living laboratory for these kinds of things. So it's not only putting those kind of changes in buildings and transportation systems, it's embedding it in the curriculum. And as you can imagine, our students are very, very excited about this. And they will do anything to work on these kind of projects. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you, Steve. Seeing no other discussion, we have a motion and a second. Only committee members may vote at this time. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The item titled Master Plan Revision with Enrollment Ceiling Increase for California State University San Bernardino is approved. Item number 3 is also an action item. requesting approval of a new student resident hall project at San Diego State University. The item will be presented again by Steve Relia, this time Sally Roosh, acting president of the San Diego State University, and by San Juan. Steve?
Thank you, Chair Nylon. This item requests the Board of Trustees approval of actions relating to the land use and design for San Diego State University's new student residence hall project. Financing approval for this project will be requested during the Committee on Finance later this afternoon. This project will help ensure that San Diego State continues to meet the housing and service needs of its students and the campus community and further its efforts to improve student retention, graduation rates, and success. I will now turn the presentation over to President Sally Rausch, who will now introduce the project. President Rausch.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. The new Student Residence Hall project is proposed in support of our Sophomore Success Program, which is an immersive, full-service academic and student life initiative tailored to second-year students who live outside of the SDSU service area. Students who live in on-campus residence halls have a higher academic success rate, as evidenced by higher grades, retention, and graduation rates, and I think you heard some of our speakers address that as well today. In order to meet the demand from freshmen who live on campus, we have housed many of them in apartments and suites, which are actually more suited to sophomores. Therefore, we are proposing to build additional freshman beds, which will free up existing sophomores' appropriate housing in sufficient quantities to house all of our out-of-service area sophomores by 2019. In addition to creating capacity for our Sophomore Success Program, the project has several goals. The first goal is to create a vibrant campus residential community in an area of campus that has been isolated and underserved with services and amenities for students. A second goal is to create indoor and outdoor amenity space to be shared by Chapultepec, affectionately known as Chappie Hall, and the new housing project. And finally, our goal is to further SDSU sustainability goals by providing housing and associated amenities within walking distance of campus, which will reduce traffic and greenhouse gas emissions, and by constructing a LEED Silver rated building. I want to thank all of the speakers this afternoon, both those opposed and in favor of the project. It illustrates the challenges associated with building in a community, where in a neighborhood where we're right up against the community. And I want to thank Vi San Juan and her staff. They're with us every step of the way from the beginning of a project to where we are today. So I want to say how much I appreciate her staff for all that they do. And I'll turn it over now to Vi.
Thank you, President Rausch. This is the existing master plan for San Diego State University, and it is comprised of 287 acres. To orient you, the Interstate 8 is to the north, and College Avenue, which is the main exit from the interstate, is to the east on the existing master plan. The first action requested is the board's approval of the changes to the master plan, and the next slide enlarges this red area. There it is, to show you what is existing. The existing proposal underneath that shaded block is to build student housing and a parking structure. So this change will eliminate the parking structure, but proceed with the new student residence hall in a revised footprint that you'll see in the next slide. This is an aerial view of the existing site. There is recent correspondence, as noted by a speaker, Mr. Pleiss, that we received just in the last few days related to concerns of the existing drop-off areas and what was included in the environmental analysis. So this slide is provided to show the parking areas. Can you back up, please? Sorry. In the green area where there's 2 disabled spaces and 2 special permit service area spaces, which is in his letter referred to as a loading drop-off zone. So it isn't exactly a drop-off zone now. It is for parking as clarification. So we believe this is the area that's referred to, and we've provided to the trustees a copy of the letters that have come in most recently from both Mr. Pleiss and some others related to the project and our responses. That was just late yesterday, and to others of you, it's in your packets, in your material today. Responses to letters that were received earlier are included in the final impact report, where the responses were developed by the campus and their consultants. So I just wanted to provide that as a setting for some of that information that you've received. Next slide, please. This slide depicts the proposed physical master plan for San Diego State. The project includes a residence hall with 850 beds, freshman-style housing, and a new dining area with community space. That new dining hall is shown to the lower left. In response to neighborhood comments, the fire lane shown to the north side of the site has been designed to accommodate two-way traffic for move-in and move-out. In addition, student drop-off areas are located at the main student entries to the complex, located on Remington Road. The proposed design includes 6 new spaces so that cars will not impede the bike lane or traffic on Remington Road. In addition, in fall 2017, the campus is beginning a program to specify a limited number of pickup points on campus for rideshare providers. The turnaround to the bottom, left in yellow, is called Plaza de Port and is one of the designated locations and located across from Chappie Hall. The campus prepared a final environmental impact report to analyze the potential significant environmental effect of this project in accordance with CEQA requirements. The report concluded that the project will not result in any unavoidable significant impacts with the implementation of mitigation measures. The item requests the Board of Trustees to certify the project FEIR and adopt the mitigation and monitoring reporting program. Throughout the CEQA process, San Diego State communicated in a variety of ways with the community and provided multiple opportunities for input. The project, as originally analyzed, included 3 phases, of which the proposed project was phase 1. Phases 2 and 3 extended the project into the canyon to the north, and elected officials, the community, were very concerned on the biological impacts, and the campus decided to eliminate phases 2 and 3 from the project. These modifications eliminated all significant and unavoidable impacts of the project, which previously existed in the areas of aesthetics and traffic, and addressed concerns regarding sensitive wildlife habitats and biological resources. In addition to the master plan approval, this item also requests the board's approval of the project scope, budget, and schematic design. This is the current view of the site looking west from the intersection of Remington Road and 55th Street. The existing Chapultepec Hall can be viewed in the distance, and the slope is more apparent in this photo. This is the view of the proposed new student residence hall from the same perspective. The building will employ mission-style architectural elements, including a white stucco finish, tile roofs, and punched window openings. At the south edge along Remington Road, only 3 stories will be visible above grade. The heights and proportions of the courtyards have been designed to allow light and air into the surrounding rooms. The building is being designed to achieve LEED Silver certification. Sustainable design features include bioretention areas in the courtyards for stormwater retention, drought-tolerant landscaping, water-saving fixtures throughout the buildings, and energy-efficient lighting and appliances. The total project cost of $130 million will be financed with CSU system-wide revenue bonds and housing program designated reserves. Financing approval will be requested in today's meeting of the Committee on Finance. Staff recommends approval of the development project and related master plan refinements. I'll turn the presentation back to Steve Relier for some closing thoughts.
Thank you, Vi. This project provides an opportunity to create a vibrant housing community on the west side of the campus that was previously isolated and underserved by social and service amenities. More importantly, the project will further the goals of the Sophomore Success Program at San Diego State and, in turn, the university's graduation initiative. Chair Nylon, that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sally, Vi, and Steve. It is traditional to have a motion and a second before discussion, so I will entertain a motion and a second. And the item titled Master Plan Revision with Enrollment Ceiling Increase, the item titled New Student Resident Hall Project at San Diego State University, as I mentioned, is an action item before the Committee on Campus Planning, Building, and Grounds. Only committee members may vote at this time. May I have a motion? There's a motion and a second.
Second.
All right, thank you. Now an opportunity for discussion. I know Vice Chair Day had his hand up. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Nyland. So I'd like to just offer a little bit of local color commentary on this, and then a couple of comments on the project. One of my 5 children was a recent resident of Chapultepec, so I'm very familiar with this residence hall, and can confirm President Rausch's comments about it being isolated and underserved. He used his longboard quite a bit from that location. Since my time on this board, I have, other than collective bargaining issues, I don't think I've received calls or letters or texts on any issue even close to this one. So just to relay that to my colleagues, I'd like to thank President Rausch and her staff, and before her, President Hirschman, because of those comments and concerns. It was a tremendous amount of controversy in the local community based on the original project, which is not before us. President Hirschman's decision and President Rausch's concurrence in reducing and eliminating phase 2 and 3 essentially eliminated all of those concerns, and I want to thank them for that, because I think it makes for a better project while not diminishing the goals of the project, which ultimately are all about student success and graduation initiatives, the graduation rates and retention. So I think you've been able to accommodate that. It's noted with our testimony in the written record that you have the support of Senator Atkins and Senator Gloria, who represent the area, as well as the city mayor and the city council member, and along with a number of other local community groups. So it really boiled down to the College View Estates, and I did take the time to speak to Mr. Pleiss over the weekend and to hear his concerns to better understand them. As I understand it, they're really the last remaining concerns, and it has to do with the traffic flow and ingress, egress. And I think, given what we've heard today, with the designated Uber drop-off, as well as the addition of 6 new designated drop-off spots, as well as a separate designated area for Uber and Lyft, I think that will go a long way towards addressing those concerns. I'd also like to recommend that we make it a lot more signage, that we're changing from a no parking to a no stopping along both sides of that section of Remington Road, if that can be part of the motion. I think that, along with continued monitoring by the campus staff with the community, I think will go a long way, as well as the move in and move out location onto the fire access road. That takes it off of Remington Road, and as we're all familiar, when students are moving in and out, that's really the crunch time. So I think I certainly support this project, and I think with those changes it makes it even better and hopefully addresses the remaining concerns.
Thank you, Vice Chair Day. Trustee Kimbell?
Yes, can you define freshman style housing? You use that term a few times. What's the difference between freshman and, say, sophomore housing style?
The freshman housing would be a dormitory style, so 2 people in a shared room, and bathrooms typically down the hall that are jointly shared amongst other residents of the dormitory, usually men's and women's shared, not always, but shared bathrooms. Versus in a sophomore, it'd be a suite style, so they would have 3 rooms, maybe shared, but a common living space and or kitchen.
Nicer.
Nicer, apartment style, perhaps. Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Kimbell. Are there any other discussions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion, and the motion also includes Vice Chair Day's discussion about additional signage. The second also include that? It is second is also including that as part of the motion. Lieutenant Governor.
And and sounds great. Is there any, have you worked all that out with the no stop? I mean, I know when it comes to stop signs, it's World War III and no stopping. I just don't, from a macro, I don't want to be accused of having micromanaged what could be a major decision that seemed completely trivial at the time we made it, but it may be major.
Agreed to by everyone involved.
I like to hear that.
No one wants parking and stopping.
All right, I just want to go on record. Hear that, because I'm sensitive to these issues. All right.
I would even add rumble strips if we could along the sidewalk there to further deter people from stopping.
Excellent. Now that we have the record completely clear, all those in favor who are on the committee, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The item titled New Student Residence Hall Project at San Diego State University is approved. Finally, we have item 4, which is an information item on the preliminary 2018-19 capital outlay program and the preliminary 2018-19 through 2022-2023 5-year facilities renewal and capital improvement plan. The item will be presented by Steve and by Steve.
Thank you, Chair Nylon. This item provides information to the trustees on the development of the university's capital program for the 2018-19 year, as well as our facility renewal and capital improvement plan for the 5 years ending in the year 2022-23. This preliminary plan, like prior plans, is critical to the CSU's ability to plan for the future and ensure that our facilities are safe and beneficial to our academic mission. Assistant Vice Chancellor Vi San Juan in a few moments will present the preliminary work in progress for the development of the 2018-19 Facilities Renewal and Capital Improvement Program and illustrate in greater detail the many drivers and considerations that must be considered when developing the preliminary plan, including the current and future state of our facilities, our projections for future growth, and the priorities of the board. Of course, we must also take into consideration our ability to finance and fund critical and needed projects like this. As you know, the state of California has not provided the CSU general obligation bonds for capital projects for over a decade. Now, due to this, the CSU now requests the legislature to increase our operating budget so that we can finance and fund the renewal of existing facilities, replacement of aged infrastructure, and construction of new facilities to improve student access and achievement. Vi will also provide some background information on the use of recent funding to reduce the backlog of infrastructure deficiencies. Now, overall, this preliminary plan will help the CSU and its campuses reach the ambitious targets set in the Graduation Initiative 2025, enabling opportunities for academic achievement, graduation, and lifelong success for our students. As a reminder, this is an information item today to share the progress and solicit your input. We'll return to you at the November board meeting for approval of the final program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Vi.
Thank you, Steve. During today's presentation, we will discuss drivers to the development of the 5-year plan, including the age of facilities, student and enrollment, and existing space. We'll provide a summary on the use of funds approved by the board and the legislature, and we will summarize the campus capital project requests received to date. One of the key drivers influencing the campus capital outlay needs is the aging and condition of our academic facilities. In this slide, you can see the CSU has over 86 million gross square feet of space, and of that amount, over half comprises the instructional buildings and facilities to support the academic program. The amount of space for self-support functions like housing, parking, student unions has been increasing, and at 42 million square feet is approaching 50% of the total space. On the whole, the academic facilities are older than the self-support facilities, with 52% of the academic facilities 40 years old or older, versus only 26% of the self-support facilities being 40 years old or older. The academic facility backlog is estimated at $2 billion. That takes into account projects that have been funded since 2014 from CSU funds and state deferred maintenance funding. Based on the renewal model for academic facilities, it is estimated that more than $150 million per year is needed to keep up with the replacement of aged building systems. This does not include the reduction of the backlog of deferred maintenance or programmatic improvements like classroom and lab renovations, ADA, seismic, or adding air conditioning or fire sprinklers. Taking into account renewal and academic program and code deficiencies, the estimated annual amount of capital funds should be greater than $400 million per year. For the self-support facilities, we estimate the renewal backlog to be in the $500 to $900 million range. This estimate is based on our current data point, where about 1/4 of the self-support square feet have been studied, and that has resulted in a backlog of $350 million is estimated for self-support. We've been working to improve our data on the condition of the academic and self-support facilities. We are co-funding with the campuses facility condition assessments to improve the quality of our estimates of the renewal backlog. We expect that by next spring, we will essentially have 100% of the academic facilities reviewed and condition studies updated, and hope to significantly increase the data on the condition of the self-support facilities. To date, our approach has been to focus on the academic facilities and develop facility management tools like system-wide master contracts and make them available for the self-support entities. In addition to the age and quality of our facilities, a number of campuses are considering revisions to their physical master plans to increase the board-approved enrollment ceilings based on continued student demand and high numbers of applications as compared to available space. Increasing the number of students that can attend the university will increase the amount of square feet needed to serve those students. For example, the San Bernardino campus enrollment ceiling increase presented earlier this meeting, and San Luis Obispo and Cal Maritime are currently in process and planning to come forward to the board in the next year. Additional campuses are still in the early stages of consideration of ceiling increases of major master plans, and we understand a number of these campuses are reviewing their academic strategic plans that will help to inform and drive the physical master planning needs. So we do expect the number of campuses reconsidering their physical master plan to increase, and those changes will come forward to this board for approval. In addition to assessing a campus's ability to add new buildings to provide increased opportunities to attend the CSU, we are looking at the amount and type of space needed. The CSU has largely used standards approved by the legislature and former state policy organization, CPEC, the California Post-Secondary Education Commission, and in some areas standards do not exist. And the CSU has developed its own standards for areas like libraries, space for media, administrative space, and corporation yards. We last reviewed the space in a comprehensive manner many years ago to provide campuses greater flexibility in the use of space, in particular, how to address the need for research space. As part of a working group tasked to look at capital outlay in general, we are convening a space standards subgroup to recommend needed updates, including the area of specific disciplines. For example, changing home economics space needs compared to today's family and consumer sciences. For libraries, we'll build upon the work of the library directors who framed the vision of the library of the future. We expect more space for group study and an impact related to the student use of digital resources. Campuses are also asking for more collaborative space for projects, which are referred to as maker spaces, that support the hands-on learning or learn by doing approach that has been the hallmark of a number of our CSU campuses. This space is envisioned at supporting multidisciplinary student teams. And another key area for review will be space to support undergraduate and faculty research space. And that came up during our presentation by Academic Affairs on the need for such space. Currently, our standards recognize graduate research space, and we have developed a model to accommodate other needs, but we need to review this model to update it based on today's learning. Such research space provides opportunities for student engagement and faculty excellence. There's some heavy lifting that will need to be done to take some of this on, and participation from academic and student affairs will be needed as integral to the process. Providing an appropriate amount of teaching space and improving the quality and design of the teaching and learning space will continue to be key drivers in the capital program. We believe that this will result in more CSU students and alumni better equipped to meet the growing and shifting demands of California's innovation economy. The next slide will show the academic facility and infrastructure funding from 2014-15 to 2017-18, which has enabled us to reduce the renewal backlog from $2.7 billion to the $2 billion noted, and how we've had to use the balance the use of the capital funds to improve safety and quality of learning spaces. This slide is from the agenda item to highlight the amount of funds. Under the column titled Funding Source, we have identified the two base budget increases to the CSU operating budget that total $35 million for the 2 years. This funding resulted in CSU bond sales to support campus projects that total over $616 million. In addition, the trustees approved a multi-year capital financing plan dedicating $50 million per year to fund portions of the 2016-17 and 17-18 capital programs, which total just shy of $600 million. Therefore, the total in academic projects and infrastructure renewal funded to date for the 4 years totals $1.2 billion. For capital planning purposes for the 2018-19 capital program, we estimate that we will be able to fund roughly $200 million in projects based on the board's prior multi-year financing approval of the $50 million. As the need for capital improvements to address existing deficiencies is much greater than $200 million, Assistant Vice Chancellor Ryan Storm will address the 2018-19 base operating budget increase needed to fund priority projects that will not be funded within the $200 million of multi-year funds remaining. The next series of slides summarize the use of the $1.2 billion. Since 2014, we've really focused the funds to address campus deficiencies. This pie chart demonstrates how the CSU has targeted funds to reduce the risk of critical infrastructure failures and the investment into existing buildings to address structural deficiencies and programmatic needs. In the big picture, out of the $1.2 billion, almost 97% has been spent on existing facilities and infrastructure. The vast majority of funds were spent on the blue section, the $462 million. The gray section represents STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, building renovations or replacements for STEM. And the maroon section represents funds to address seismic deficiencies. The yellow section is the renovation or renewal of non-STEM facilities. So the STEM facilities includes projects funded at Dominguez Hills, Sacramento, Chico, San Jose, and San Diego. And I heard Sacramento had a very nice groundbreaking yesterday for their science building. Campuses expect the new facilities will help increase the participation of Latino students in STEM fields, close the equity gap in STEM, and support active learning. The light brown section, the very small amount spent on growth in order to increase space to serve additional students, is roughly is $44 million and really represents primarily Monterey Bay to allow that campus to continue to grow to reach a good size where it's more administratively efficient. The slide shows how funds were used consistent with the board's categories and criteria for priority setting, with a focus on infrastructure in existing buildings and trying to balance the needs to improve the quality of learning space. There is still tremendous need for funding, and the 5-year plan helps to demonstrate the need. The next slide will focus only on the use of the infrastructure funds, the blue section of this pie. This slide shows the progress we've made in reducing the backlog of critical infrastructure and deferred maintenance. Along the vertical axis are the types of buildings and utility systems that need repair or replacement, and across the bottom is the amount of need. So across the bottom, if you added all the gray bars up, that would equal the $2.7 billion. The blue bars correspond to the $462 million in infrastructure funding from the pie chart on the previous slide that has been funded, plus we did include the $60 million in state deferred maintenance funding to show our progress on reducing the backlog. The gray bars represent the need of repairs for the system. So for example, the bottom row shows we needed $700 million in critical repairs to infrastructure, and we funded about $290 million. Based on designs and construction bids for the work to date, we believe the $700 million estimate is low, based on $60 to $80 million, due to unknown conditions and the complexity of digging up areas on the campus to replace leaking pipes. The chart captures the focus to replace utility production and distribution systems, for example, boilers, chillers, electrical lines, switchgear, transformers, and emergency generators. These funded projects, represented in blue, improve operational reliability and function and reduce the risk of campus shutdowns due to failed electrical, heating, and cooling systems. And to comment to Mr. Fernandez's comments from SETC, we are piloting a project related to building controls to see if we can use in-house staff to replace controls. So there's a little bit of project we're supporting with the use of the funds to look to support the apprenticeship program in those areas of building maintenance. We've made progress the last 4 years to address the tremendous facilities needs, and will continue to improve our tracking and reporting systems for both academic and self-support facilities. The next slide summarizes the campus's preliminary requests for funding in 2018-19 and the 5-year plan. A copy of the preliminary 5-year plan, which is a compilation of campus project requests, can be viewed at the link noted in the agenda item, and a copy was mailed out to the board. Campus requests exceed $13.8 billion for the 5-year plan. This amount is comprised of academic facility needs of $7.9 billion and self-support projects of $5.8 billion. Based on the campus request for the 2018-19 action year alone, the request for academic projects exceeds $1.2 billion, and for self-support projects exceeds $305. The list of priority projects for the 2018-19 action year is shown in Attachment A to the item on page 1, followed by the list of preliminary infrastructure improvement projects listed in alphabetical order starting on page 2 of Attachment A. So there is a tremendous need to renovate and renew existing facilities and provide quality space for student learning. In the next few weeks, we'll continue to work with campuses to refine the proposed budget. Next slide, please. The proposed budget, scope, and schedule of the projects. Both the academic and self-support projects in the action year and 5-year plan are still under review in this iterative process. In addition, the Financing and Treasury Department will review proposed financing of the self-support projects prior to the November board meeting. For the academic program, we plan to fund roughly $200 million in academic projects using the CSU Bond Financing Authority approved by the board in November 2016. Of that amount, we aim to fund roughly $50 million in infrastructure and make further progress in seismic safety and renovation of existing space. Should the legislature and governor approve the full CSU 2018-19 operating budget request, additional projects could be funded. For example, if $15 million in permanent base funding is supported for capital outlay and infrastructure, the CSU would be able to finance about $225 million in projects. If that were to occur, the CSU would then achieve the $400 million funding target for capital and renewal that is estimated to be needed. This is an information item. As we work to complete review of the proposed campus projects, we will return to the board in November with an updated academic priority list for consideration. I'll turn it back to Steve to conclude the item.
Thank you, Vi. The Capital Outlay and Facilities Renewal Program has worked to improve the reliability of our utility systems, serving our campuses as we replace deficient and obsolete systems, address priority seismic strengthening projects, and provide STEM learning space appropriate for our academic programs on the campuses. We've made good progress since the last general obligation bond using our own authority, but we need additional resources to address the university's diverse needs. To increase opportunities to invest in our capital facilities, the CSU successfully pursued legislation that increased our investment authority, encouraged campuses to designate reserves to invest in renewal and improvements, and continues to pursue public-private partnerships. However, these measures will not be sufficient to address the need that Vi just went over with you in this presentation. Ultimately, we will work to solve the challenges facing our facilities and infrastructure across the CSU, but we must also remember that our university mission and our goals, like increasing opportunity to all communities, ensuring more qualified Californians are able to attend and graduate from the CSU, and providing a high-quality, rigorous academic experience, all of these things are directly related to our ability to build, maintain, and support outstanding learning environments like lecture halls, libraries, laboratories, study spaces, and other spaces that allow our outstanding faculty and staff to teach, support, and inspire our current and future generation of students. That concludes our presentation, and Vi and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. And Vi, as you know, this is not an action item, it's an information item only, so I will open it up to any questions or comments from the board. Trustee Kearney.
Okay, so this is just a general question. It doesn't refer to any specific project on this list, but I have come to realize that a campus could designate a particular project as a priority project, but it might not be funded for many years. I mean, it might be on the priority list as that campus's #1 priority for more than 15 years. So what flexibility do campuses have? Can that serve as a placeholder so they could change out their priority project if in the 15-year or more wait period things changed?
Thank you, Carney. Recommending a priority order to the board has always been a fun part of the job. And the campuses do have flexibility to change out their project, and we take a look at that substituted project compared to the other projects on the list. So it does tend to have to stand on its own. So we do allow that, but they have to still stand against the other projects that remain on the list.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kearney. Seeing no other discussions, Chair Eisen, this concludes the business of the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds.
Thank you, Trustee Nylon. So we're a little bit